Peace be upon you and welcome to the annual Truth Promoters Ashura program for this year, 2025, which corresponds to the lunar year 1447. We welcome you to a program the likes of which we are sure you have never experienced before. A Muharram program with substance, with culture, with emotion, and entirely in English. Tonight is the 2nd of Muharram. We would like to start the program this evening with a recitation from the Qur'an in English. The verses being recited will be displayed on the screen during the recitation, but for the benefit of those who are listening, they are: number 1, Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter of the cow, second chapter of the Qur'an, verse 2. Number 2, Surah al-Ahzaab, the chapter of the Confederates, 33rd chapter of the Qur'an, verse 23. Number 3, Surah Yunus, the chapter of Prophet Jonah, 10th chapter of the Quran, verse 4. Number 4, Surah al-Insaan, the chapter of humanity, 76th chapter of the Quran, verses 7 to 9. Number 5, Surah al-Raaf, the chapter of heights, 7th chapter of the Quran, verse 164. And number 6, Ziyarat Aal-e-Yaseen. This segment will be available on the Islamic Digest, located at www.islamicdigest.org.
In the name of God, the Merciful, the especially merciful. This is the book beyond any doubt, a guide for those who are mindful of God. Among the believers are those who stayed true to the promise they made to God. Some have already given their lives and others are still waiting, but they never wavered, never changed their commitment. To him is your return, every one of you. That is God's true promise. He is the one who begins creation and then brings it back again, so that he may repay those who believed and did good with perfect justice. But those who deny the truth will have scalding water to drink and a painful punishment, because they used to reject the truth. They honored their vows, and they fear a day whose hardship spreads far and wide. Out of love for God they give food to the poor, the orphan, and the captive, saying, "We feed you for the sake of God's face alone. We want neither reward from you nor gratitude." When some among them asked, "Why bother warning a people whom God will either destroy or severely punish?" they replied, "So we have an excuse before our Lord, and maybe they'll become mindful of him." Peace be upon the ones who invite hearts to God.
The next part of our program is a short set of poetic couplets. These have been inspired by Quranic verses related to: number 1, the divine majesty of God; number 2, Ahl al-Bayt, or the holy household of the Prophet Muhammad; number 3, verses on clarification, otherwise known as Tabyeen, which is the primary subject of our sessions this Muharram; and number 4, a line from one of the various visitation prayers, also known as Ziyarah, to Imam Husayn and the Ahl al-Bayt. The verses that inspired the couplet for today are: number 1, Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter of the cow, second chapter of the Quran, verse number 2. Number 2, Surah Al-Ahzaab, the chapter of the Confederates, 33rd chapter of the Quran, verse 23. Number 3, Surah Yunus, the chapter of the Prophet Jonah, which is the 10th chapter of the Quran, verse number 4. Number 4, Surah Al-Insaan, the chapter of humanity, 76th chapter of the Quran, verses 7 to 9. Number 5, Surah Al-Raaf, the chapter of heights, 7th chapter of the Quran, verses 164. And number 6, Ziyarat Aal-e-Yaseen. This segment will be available on the Islamic Digest, located at www.islamicdigest.org.
In the name of the one who sealed his promise in the hearts of the guided. He is the ever true, whose throne rests on mercy and whose word never fails. He made a covenant with the purified, those whose tears are weighed with truth. He sent them to warn and to weep, to speak when others silence the truth. Peace be upon the light that cried out in Karbala when tongues were chained.
Now we will have our main lecture for this evening. Our series this year is about Tabyeen, or the struggle for clarification. The subject for this, the second session in the series, is Tabyeen, also known as clarification, understanding, Tabyeen. This segment will be available on the Reflections, located at www.reflections313.com.
So I think it's good we start with Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawm al-din. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله ولا أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم منا جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر الأحد منا لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah, and upon the souls who have gathered in your courtyard. Upon you, from us all, is the peace of God forever, for as long as we remain and as long as night and day endure. And may God never make this our last pledge to visit you. Peace be upon Husayn and upon Ali, the son of Husayn, and upon the children of Husayn, and upon the companions of Husayn. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, this is the second in our series of sessions for these nights of Ashura and Arba'een on the subject of Tabyeen or clarification. As with our other sessions, such as those on patience, those on the lantern of the path, or those on the art of supplication, it is very strongly recommended that anyone consuming this, at the very least, review the previous sessions prior to consuming this. This is because of the nature of the discussion, the manner of the discourse really does require that each part build upon the one that came before, so as to avoid confusion, misunderstanding, or any invalid assumptions that can lead to what would actually be the antithesis of Tabyeen. While we do have a recap for each session, the recap is highly summarized, and to get the full nuance, the previous sessions will really need to be consumed, studied, and reflected upon. Also, once more, while these sessions can sometimes feel a little long and perhaps a little bit overwhelming, the content herein is extremely important, and I would ask that everyone please be patient and listen through to the end, and also follow through the previous and future sessions within this series. But if I can now get a salawat, we can move to the recap.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So in the opening session of this series, we began by exploring the tragic reality that within 50 years of the passing of Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim community had strayed so far from the truth that it became complicit in the slaughter of his beloved grandson, Imam Husayn, and his companions. The session traced the roots of this catastrophe to a singular neglected duty, the jihad of clarification or Tabyeen. This failure to uphold truth allowed tyranny to masquerade as leadership and misguidance to parade as faith. We examined authenticated narrations from both the Sunni and Shia sources affirming the lofty station of Imam Hassan and Imam Husayn as Sayyiday Shabab al-Jannah, the leaders of the youth of paradise. Yet despite their known status, the Ummah permitted Yazid, a man who openly mocked revelation, to rule in their name. The words of Imam Husayn in his sermon in Mina condemned the silence of the scholars and the elites, warning that those who witness tyranny and do not resist it by word and or deed are complicit in the crime. The session also explored how Satan's ancient vow to lie in wait upon the straight path finds its fulfillment not merely through physical warfare, but through intellectual distortion, media manipulation, theological confusion. Various Quranic verses, such as those from Surah Al-A'raf, Surah Al-Kahf, warned of a people who believe they are doing good, while they are in fact straying away from the path of God. The session closed by establishing the central theme of the series, that Tabyeen is not optional. Rather, it is a divine trust, a duty upon the scholars, thinkers, and believers in every age. The pen, the pulpit, and the intellect are all weapons in this sacred battle. Just as Sayyidah Zainab upheld the truth in the courts of falsehood, so too must we. In the face of systematic distortion, be it political, theological, or historical, we are called to rise, not with weapons alone, but with speech, reason, ethics, and conviction. This is the jihad of our time. This is Tabyeen. Please give me a salawat and we continue.
اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على
محمد
محمد وآل
وآل
محمد.
محمد.
So today's session is about understanding Tabyeen. And the first point we have to look at is the nature of this soft war and the nature of what is the jihad of clarification. So among the most critical forms of jihad or struggle in our time is the jihad of the intellect and clarification. This is a struggle waged not with weapons, but with truth, insight, and resolve. It is a battle waged against distortion, misinformation, and the deliberate manipulation of public perception. Whenever an individual rises to protect society from confusion, from misinformation or deception, striving to awake awareness and illuminate the truth, such a person is engaged in a great form of jihad. Today, in addition to the enemy's overt military aggression that we see all around us, we face an even more dangerous and insidious campaign, and this is the soft war. Unlike conventional warfare, the software infiltrates minds and reshapes worldviews. It targets the moral compass and ideological resilience of nations and people. This war is fought through propaganda, through misinformation, and the deliberate inversion of truth and falsehood. In this war, the enemy employs two primary maneuvers. Firstly, severing the connection between the people and truth, undermining their moral and spiritual steadfastness. And secondly, reversing reality, portraying lies as truth and oppressors as victims. Through the immense machinery of global media, the enemy constructs narratives so forcefully and convincingly that even the informed may become confused. This is a war not of bullets, but of narratives, of presenting a world upside down, where the truth is condemned and falsehood is celebrated. Consider a striking example, for example. For years, a brutal bombing campaign was waged against the oppressed people of Yemen. Civilians had been targeted in their homes, in their schools, in hospitals, and on the streets, and even in weddings. An economic blockade had prevented even food and medicine and fuel from reaching them. This had been carried out by aggressive regimes within the region, within the West Asia region, with the full support of the United States and its allies in the collective West. And yet, when the Yemeni people responded with a single defensive operation, a deafening outcry emerged. This is terrorism, or this is aggression. And it's broadcast across all international platforms, echoed even by the United Nations, which often fails to condemn years of prior violence, but rushes to denounce a single act of self-defense. Such a response reveals the moral collapse of global institutions, where truth is not merely buried, it is reversed. Another case. The very government that holds the world's largest arsenal of nuclear weapons, and is the only one to have ever used them, that is, of course, the United States, now claims to be a global champion against weapons of mass destruction. Over 200,000 lives were extinguished in moments in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And yet it is this same nation that raises the slogan of peace and disarmament. The absurdity deepens. A regime that supports a ruler who murdered and dismembered a journalist with a bone saw, of course this is referring to Jamal Khashoggi, boldly proclaims itself a defender of human rights. It is this same regime that created, funded, and armed terrorist groups such as ISIS or Daesh, only to later declare war on them, using their presence as a pretext to establish military bases, to loot resources, and to justify the continued occupation of multiple sovereign lands. These are not theories. These are realities admitted by officials themselves. In another example, we see the relentless hostility towards the presence of resistance movements in countries like Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, etc. Yet in many cases, this presence was purely political or advisory. And where it was military, it was at the explicit request of legitimate governments. By contrast, the occupying powers established bases without consent, with no legal or moral justification. All of this is done while the truth is drowned in layers of distortion. What is illegitimate is declared legitimate. What is defensive is labeled terrorism. What is rooted in justice is portrayed as chaos and disorder. This is why the jihad of clarification is not optional. It is a divine duty. It is the struggle of the tongue, of the pen, and the mind. And it is a response to the inversion of truth that defines our era. So in this era of accelerated communication, the tools of mass influence have been weaponized. The ability to shape perception has become a central theater of warfare. With calculated precision, the enemy manufactures illusions, presenting falsehood as noble resistance and vilifying truth as extremism. This strategy is not merely theoretical. It is deeply embedded in historical and contemporary events. One such example is the systematic attempt to revise and sanitize the image of corrupt regimes. And the example I will use is, for example, the Pahlavi regime in Iran. In recent years, some people have sought to repaint the brutalities and failures of that period, the time when the Pahlavis ran Iran, when they were essentially a proxy of the United States. Some people have sought to repaint these brutalities and failures of that period as being mere exaggerations or even fabrications. They ask, was it really that bad? Or why did the revolution even take place? Such questions are not seeded from objective curiosity, but from a deliberate effort to cast doubt upon the moral legitimacy of the Islamic awakening, the global Islamic awakening that followed and that continues to this day. Efforts have even been made to resurrect the reputation of figures such as Hoveyda and Pahlavi himself, people whose governance was steeped in foreign dependency, in elitist corruption and subservience to colonial powers. Despite attempts to glorify their image, even the most sympathetic accounts cannot avoid acknowledging their betrayals. This whitewashing of history is part of a larger movement to invalidate the very foundations of the Islamic Revolution and to implant doubts in the heart of those who did not live through it. Similarly, we are witness to an intensifying media war, akin to the early days of the 8-year imposed war against the fledgling Islamic Revolution. At that time, the defenders of the land of Iran lacked even the most basic weapons. They had no RPGs, no anti-tank equipment, no anti-aircraft, all of this. They were facing a huge and massive mechanized army that was very well equipped. and yet, by the grace of God, they prevailed. Today, the battle is just as fierce, but the weapons are different. It is a battle not of tanks and trenches, but of narratives, perception, and morale. The enemy possesses an arsenal of media tools, platforms, bots, and influencers. Their objective is not merely territorial, rather it is psychological. It is to make the oppressed feel weak, feel defeated, and feel incapable of standing. They do not stop at external attacks, they work from within, planting despair and resignation. They flood the public psyche with phrases like, "That's impossible. There's no point. We can't succeed." These are not casual expressions. These are psychological weapons, sapping the willpower out of societies from the inside out. At such times, the obligation to clarify becomes urgent. Clarification is not just about countering lies. It is about restoring confidence, rekindling purpose, and reaffirming identity. Without clarification, people begin to internalize these distortions. They begin to question what they once knew. This is the subtle poison of psychological warfare. It kills not the body, but it kills the soul. And in fact, the Qur'an has warned against this passivity. In Surah Al-Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, third chapter of the Qur'an, verse 187, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "When God made a covenant with those who were given the book, you shall surely clarify it for the people and not conceal it." This command is not confined to the scholars of old. It is a living command, binding upon all who possess knowledge and insight in the face of distortions. Please give me a salawat and we proceed.
اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على
محمد
محمد وآل محمد.
So the campaign of distortion does not merely target political memory or historical events. It seeks to disrupt clarity, to entangle minds in confusion, and to blur the lines between truth and falsehood. In such moments, the greatest danger is fitna or sedition, a state in which it becomes difficult to distinguish friend from foe, sincerity from deception, and guidance from misguidance. Sedition clouds the intellect. It breeds hesitation. It forces the believer to doubt their own moral compass. This is why clarification is not a secondary virtue. It is the remedy to fitna. In the words of the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali, he says, and this is from Nahj Balagha, and as with all of these sessions, there are extensive citations and footnotes throughout the write-up. So Imam Ali says, "The beginning of the occurrence of seditions is desires that are followed and rulings that are innovated. Opposed to the Book of God, people assist one another upon these, even though they oppose the religion of God." Imam Ali continues, "Had falsehood been unmixed, it would not be hidden from the seekers of truth. Had truth been pure and free of falsehood, those who hate it would be silenced. But a portion is taken from here and another from there. Truth and falsehood are mixed. In such a case, Satan dominates those who follow him." This mixing is the hallmark of our age. Truth is not denied, rather it is diluted. Falsehood is not always bold, but it is concealed with familiar words and noble slogans. So what then is the remedy to such confusion? The answer lies in clear, confident, and principled clarification. In moments where movements emerge bearing misleading slogans, or when elections, protests, or political shifts create uncertainty, it becomes the obligation of the thinking elite to set the record straight. Silence at such times is not neutrality, rather it is complicity. Ambiguity aids the enemy. Clarification hinders the advance of falsehood, while confusion furnishes it with cover. Every person of insight has a duty, especially those whose words carry weight. For example, scholars, speakers, educators, and public figures. They must draw clear boundaries between truth and error. They must speak out against falsehood, even if it wears the garb of legitimacy. And they must illuminate murky discourse with Quranic light and historical perspective. This duty transcends partisanship. It is not the task of one political camp or one ideology. In the Islamic framework, everyone is accountable. Every group, especially those within positions of influence, must declare their stance. Are you aligned with the oppressors or are you against them? Do you stand with the arrogant powers of the world or are you in disassociation from them? To remain silent in times of confusion is to allow deception to deepen. The enemy thrives in the smoke-filled arenas of obscurity, where truth is not outright denied, but quietly suffocated. Therefore, as believers, as thinkers, as inheritors of the Quranic call to bear witness to truth, we must never tire of clarification. It is not only a defense, it is a form of jihad, and one that is desperately needed in this age of engineered confusion. Please give me a salawat and we can proceed to looking at clarification in Islamic history from the Prophet to Imam Ali.
اللهم صل
اللهم
على
صل
محمد وآل محمد.
So clarification is not simply a modern necessity. It is actually a divine sunnah, exemplified in the lives of the prophets and the imams. The Qur'an itself bears witness to moments when the Prophet Muhammad was commanded to clarify, even when doing so would invite slander or social backlash. One such instance is the episode involving Zayd ibn Haritha and Zaynab bint Jahsh. The Prophet was commanded to marry her after her divorce from Zayd, who was a former slave and the adopted son of the messenger. This was in order to break an unjust social custom that equated adoption with biological lineage. This caused murmurs and accusations among the people, yet God instructed the Prophet to proceed and clarify the divine wisdom behind the action. And this is in Qur'an in Surah al-Ahzaab, the chapter of the Confederates, 33rd chapter of the Qur'an, verse number 38, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "There is no blame on the Prophet concerning what God has ordained for him. Such has been God's way with those who passed earlier, and God's command is bound to be fulfilled." In this instance, the Prophet did not retreat from his duty to clarify a misunderstood matter, even though it was socially sensitive. He became a living sacrifice for truth, and God defended him, making the reality clear to all. This model of proactive clarification is fundamental to Islamic guidance. The Imams continued this legacy. During the Caliphate of Imam Ali, the greatest challenges he faced were not from open disbelievers, but from those who claimed Islam, those who prayed and spoke the language of faith, yet had deviated from the truth. This was no simple test. Unlike the early battles of Islam, where the lines were visibly drawn between Muslims and idolaters, the trials of Imam Ali were marked by ambiguity and internal sedition. Many of those who opposed him had once stood beside the Prophet. Some were companions who were respected and recognized. This made the situation immensely difficult. Even notable figures like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, praised for his piety and knowledge, struggled to see clearly during the turmoil of Siffin. He is reported to have said to Imam Ali, "O Commander of the Faithful, we are in doubt regarding this battle, despite our knowledge of your virtue." Such doubt among the elites is deeply corrosive. It eats away at the clarity of truth and weakens the resolve of a righteous movement, just like termites undermining the very pillars of a just society. As the political atmosphere became increasingly clouded, the burden of clarification fell on companions like Ammar ibn Yasir. His words and interventions were instrumental in exposing falsehood and guiding the hesitant. Yet by the time of Imam Hassan, even this clarity had diminished. The murkiness had thickened, the lines had blurred further. Sedition had triumphed over discernment. And this too was foreseen by Imam Ali, where he says in Nahj Balagha, "A portion is taken from here and another from there. Truth and falsehood are mixed. In such a case, Satan dominates his friends, and only those are saved upon whom God has bestowed his grace." In contrast, at the time of the Prophet, clarity was often easier. The polytheists were open enemies. Their crimes were known. Their enmity was very clear. The Muslims who had emigrated, the Muhajirun, remembered who had beaten them, who had imprisoned them and usurped their properties. Even the conspiracies of the various Jewish tribes in Medina, for example, like Banu Qurayza, were exposed. And when justice was meted out, no one expressed hesitation, for the battlefield was illuminated. But in the age of internal sedition, clarity fades, slogans are co-opted, believers turn against each other. The true challenge of Imam Ali's time, and likewise our own time, is to discern within the fog, to remain anchored in revelation and insight, and to carry out the duty of clarification, regardless of how murky the terrain becomes. Could I have a salawat and we can start looking at lessons from history and the role of strategic propagation?
اللهم صل على
صل على
محمد
محمد
وآل محمد.
So the pattern of internal sedition and confusion witnessed during the time of Imam Ali and later intensified during the era of Imam Hassan was not merely the result of emotional unrest or political intrigue. It was the outcome of a systematic failure in political and theological analysis. Many sincere Muslims, though committed in worship and faith, lacked the clarity and discernment required to navigate complex crises. They hesitated, they wavered, or they were swayed by deceptive arguments. In studying the 5 years of Imam Ali's governance, one concludes that the most critical factor behind the failures and setbacks was not a lack of piety, but a weakness in insight and analysis. Had this clarity been present, many who fought on the wrong side of history might have stood in the ranks of truth. Instead, they followed misplaced loyalties, tribal impulses, or superficial slogans, thinking they fought for righteousness, when in fact they stood against the wali of God. This is the same danger. This is the same danger that confronts us today. The forces of falsehood often clothe themselves in religious language, adopting the very terminology of the righteous, while emptying it of its true meaning. In such an environment, clarification is no longer just a recommendation. It is a survival imperative. But clarification alone is not enough. It must be part of a strategic program of propagation, one that understands the needs of the time, speaks the language of the people, and anticipates the distortions that are likely to arise. This cannot be the work of lone individuals operating in isolation. It requires planning, collective insight, an understanding of the audience, and a unified narrative rooted in divine guidance. Indeed, in Islamic history, the most intense efforts of the Prophet were not spent only on open enemies, but rather on hypocrites and internal saboteurs. Likewise, Imam Ali's energies were consumed in fighting those who claimed to uphold Islam, yet opposed its divine leadership. These were not merely political adversaries. They were ideological distorters, and their legacy continues to poison the Muslim world today. At the time of the Battle of Badr, the truth was manifest. The lines were very clear. The enemy was openly hostile. But the true trial lies in those moments when the enemy claims to be your brother, when slogans are shared, the attire is the same, but the soul has deviated. The worst calamity is not external pressure, but internal erosion. When Muslims lose clarity, they begin to question the obvious. They become paralyzed with doubt. That is why strategic, consistent, and tailored propagation must be part of any Islamic revival. The duty of those on the pulpits, in the seminaries, and in the fields of education is to speak in a way that clarifies, not confuses, to simplify without diluting, to awaken without provoking fitna or sedition. Not everyone is equipped to do this. Some may falter, some may err, maybe in their tone or in their substance. That is why it must be the task of organized, conscious, and God-fearing groups to take on this mission very seriously. God willing, this task can and must be fulfilled. Now, the modern arena is a place where one can do clarification in the face of global propaganda. Today, the need for clarification is no less urgent than it was in the time of the Imams. The battlefield, however, has shifted. It is no longer defined solely by armies and empires, but rather by ideological warfare, digital distortion, and psychological infiltration. The enemy has realized that to weaken a nation, to weaken a people, it is not always necessary to destroy its infrastructure. One needs to only confuse its people, distort their beliefs, erode their trust in their values, and shatter their hope. This is the real objective of modern propaganda. Through satellite channels, online platforms, social media influencers, entertainment narratives, and even educational institutions, a new form of colonization is underway, a colonization of the mind. And who are the primary targets? Not the elders, nor the firmly grounded scholars. It is the minds of the youth that are most aggressively pursued. If the younger generation can be alienated from their faith, divorced from their identity, and made to feel ashamed of their history, then the enemy has no need to fight further. A generation that doubts itself will never resist. This is the goal behind the barrage of distortions, to present oppression as progress, submission to global hegemony as modernity, and resistance to injustice as extremism. They wish to convince the Muslim Ummah that its principles are outdated, its scriptures irrelevant, and its scholars obsolete. This is not mere criticism. It is a coordinated campaign to hollow out the spiritual and intellectual core of Islamic civilization. Please give me a salawat and we continue.
اللهم صل على
اللهم
محمد
صل على محمد
وآل محمد.
Parallel to things like sanctions, political pressure, there is the distortion of realities. These are realities that are both domestic and international. Every weakness within a Muslim country is magnified 100-fold, while every success is silenced. Any internal voice that echoes the enemy's narrative is amplified and celebrated by the foreign media. If someone speaks against their own nation's scholars, against their own nation's martyrs or values, they are instantly embraced by platforms hostile to Islam. On the other hand, anyone who speaks of resistance, of self-reliance, or of spiritual dignity is labeled as dangerous or regressive. The result is a strategic demoralization of the masses, especially the youth. They are made to feel as though their society is hopeless, that their future is bleak, and that their values are irrelevant. Interestingly, the Quran warns us of this tactic. In describing the enemies of divine truth, it says, and this is from Surah Al-Hajj, the chapter of the pilgrimage, 22nd chapter of the Quran, verse number 73. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, if the fly snatches away anything from them, they cannot retrieve it from it. Weak is the seeker, and weak the sought. Such is the state of those who chase illusion and abandon truth. But this campaign of distortion is not only about weakening morale. It also seeks to pressure populations into false solutions. It whispers, if you wish to be free from sanctions, you must compromise with the oppressor. If you want relief, you must surrender. This is not relief. This is capitulation. It is the surrender of one's divine duty in exchange for fleeting convenience. However, by the grace of God, the majority of the Ummah remain steadfast. The voices of truth have not been silenced, and the banner of clarity has not fallen. But this state of resilience must not breed complacency. If the movement of distortion gains ground, it will not only damage perceptions, it will weaken determination. And if determination is lost, then both resistance and revival are placed in jeopardy. That is why, if the campaign of distortion is defeated, then, by the will of God, any campaign of sanctions will also collapse. And over here, when I talk about sanctions, yes, there is an inference to talking about Iran, because the basis for our sessions are Imam Khamenei's sessions on Tabyeen. But there are sanctions of different types that happen across to Muslims everywhere, and people who speak the truth everywhere across the world, especially in the collective West. This is because this is not just a battle of information. It is rather a battle of wills. And when the will of the believers is firm, then the falsehood of the arrogant shall crumble. Quran is testimony to this. In Surah Anfal, the chapter of the spoils of war, 8th chapter of Quran, verse number 65, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, if there be 20 patient ones amongst you, they shall overcome 200. Please give me a salawat, and we look at the next section, which is the final responsibility, clarification as the engine of revival.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So, clarification is not merely a defensive measure. It is the engine of revival. It awakens the heedless, emboldens the faithful, and erects barriers against fitna before it spreads. At its core, clarification is about reasserting the primacy of truth in an age that seeks to bury it under distraction, distortion, and doubt. It is also a direct continuation of the Quranic instruction to the Prophet Muhammad. And this is from Surah Al-Ra'd, the chapter of thunder, 13th chapter of Quran, verse number 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells Prophet Muhammad, your duty is only to communicate, and ours is the reckoning, meaning Allah's is the reckoning. Our obligation is not to guarantee outcomes, but to fulfill the trust of tabligh or conveyance, to clarify the path of God, so that no one is misled by the slogans of the enemy or the deceit of the hypocrites. This responsibility belongs to everyone, especially those entrusted with influence, those who educate, those who preach, those who write, and those who organize. A scholar who remains silent in the face of confusion bears part of the blame. A teacher who permits distortions to fester in young minds is complicit. A speaker who seeks popularity at the expense of truth is not just failing to clarify, they are helping to obscure. Now, this does not mean stirring internal conflict or division. Clarification must never descend into provocation or partisan squabbles. It must be rooted in insight and delivered with wisdom, and oriented towards unity around divine principles, not personalities or factions. Indeed, the Islamic revolution itself was built on the method of clarification. And it succeeded not through emotional agitation or political trickery, but through clear and moral reasoning. It outmaneuvered ideologies like Marxism by offering a coherent, truthful alternative grounded in revelation. Wherever it stumbled, it was not due to a failure of spirit, but a failure to maintain clarity in discourse and direction. Today, as dialectic materialism returns in new guises, as consumerism and self-indulgence seduce hearts, as doubt is spread under the mask of intellectualism, clarification remains our tool, our weapon, and our obligation. And this duty is not limited to the classroom or the minbar, the pulpit. It must extend into the media, where narratives are shaped, the universities, where worldviews are formed, the homes, where values are transmitted, and the streets, where opinions are circulated. Every Muslim who witnesses confusion must offer clarity. Every person who hears a falsehood must refute it with reason and respect. Every believer who sees sedition taking root must uproot it with courage and conviction. And this is also a Quranic edict. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter of the cow, second chapter of the Quran, verse 283, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "Do not conceal the testimony. Whoever conceals it, his heart is indeed sinful." This is why the remembrance of great struggles, like the Islamic Revolution, the defense of Palestine, or the sacrifices of the martyrs, must not be allowed to fade. If the truth is not repeated, it will be replaced by fiction. If the names of the righteous are not honored, they will be buried beneath the slogans of the corrupt. We must ask ourselves, why has the legacy of Karbala endured for over 1300 years? Because the Ummah did not stop narrating it. The Ummah did not cease to mourn it and did not allow it to be forgotten. Were it not for the annual revival of Ashura that we are commemorating ourselves, it might have been reduced to a marginal footnote of history. In the same way, the realities of our age, the struggles, the betrayals, the divine victories, must be preserved and transmitted through clarification. Not once, not annually, but constantly and coherently. The Quran commands repetition. Our prayers, our remembrance, our reading of the book are all grounded in repetition for remembrance, for reinforcement, and for renewal. So too must be our political and spiritual clarity. Let every one of us then become a bearer of this responsibility. Let us refuse to remain silent, even when silence is safer. Let us refuse to remain neutral, even when neutrality appears respectable. Let us speak, clarify, and stand, so that the enemy is confused and not the believer. In Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa, the chapter of the women, 4th chapter of the Qur'an, verse 45, if they all march out against you, they will do so in scattered groups, and God is sufficient as a guardian, and God is sufficient as a helper. Please give me a loud salawat and we move to the conclusion.
اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على
محمد
محمد
وآل محمد.
So let us make a clarion call in this, the age of confusion. So in this session, we have journeyed through the many dimensions of the jihad of Tabyeen or clarification, a duty that transcends time, geography, and circumstance. We have seen that in every age of fitna, from the life of the Prophet Muhammad to the era of Imam Ali, the victory of truth was never solely dependent on force of arms, but rather on clarity of vision, strength of word, and integrity of purpose. The enemies of Islam no longer fight only with bullets and bombs. They wage war through distortion, demoralization, and distraction. Their goal is not just to conquer lands, but to conquer minds. And so, we are called to respond, not with confusion, not with silence, but with the sharp, unwavering sword of clarification. Clarification is not noise, it is light. It is the act of lifting the fog, of drawing firm lines between right and wrong, and of denying the enemy the cover of ambiguity. It requires insight, preparation, patience, and unity. It is a collective obligation, especially for those who carry influence over hearts and minds. If we understand this duty and we rise to fulfill it, whether in our words, in our writings, in our sermons, or even in our conversations, then we become part of a noble lineage, the bearers of divine testimony in an age of deceit. And as God reminds us, and this is from Surah Al-Imran, the chapter of the family of Imran, 3rd chapter of the Quran, verse 104. Let there be among you a group who invite to good, enjoin what is right, and forbid what is wrong. It is they who shall be successful. May we be amongst them. May our voices be clear, may our intentions be pure, and our mission unwavering. And may God bless the efforts of all who strive to illuminate truth in a world of shadows. Please give me a salawat and we move to the supplication eulogy titled This is Karbala.
اللهم صل على
اللهم صل
محمد
على محمد
وآل
وآل
محمد.
محمد.
So this is the supplication eulogy for the second night, and its title is This is Karbala. In his name, the Lord of the martyrs and the truthful. O God, send your blessings upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. O God, O the one who guided Noah in the storm, who cooled the fire for Abraham, who parted the sea for Moses, why then did you not part the sands for Husayn? O my Lord, this is the day his blessed feet touched the soil of Karbala. He looked upon that land with knowing eyes. He paused and said, here is the place where our blood shall be spilt. Here will our women be taken captive. Here will my children cry, and the swords will fall upon us. What heart could carry the burden you bore, to see the place of your own slaughter and walk into it, not as a prisoner, but as a lover, as one who chose death to give life to the souls of men? O God, this is the land you call blessed, by the blood that would fall upon it. This is the land of the covenant, the place where heaven bent down to kiss the earth, but the people turned their backs. I bear witness you established the prayer, you gave charity, you enjoined good, and you forbade evil. Yet they surrounded you, not with reverence, but with arrows, with lances, and with siege. O beloved of the messenger, as you descended from your steed, you surveyed the land. You ordered tents to be pitched. You gave the command, not of a warlord, but of the final prophet's grandson. a guide, a father, a servant of the truth. And you named the place Karbin wa Bala, Karb and Bala, grief and trial. O my Imam, was it for us that you endured this? Was it so that the prayer would remain pure, that you gave your head and heart to the sword? O God, what did the world do to your saint? He came with peace, but they came with poison. He came with the Qur'an, but they came with thirst. He came with his family, but they came with armies. And now the camp is settled. The days are numbered. The angels descend each night to behold the greatest sacrifice ever offered. O my Lord, do not let us look upon Karbala as a tale of the past. Let our hearts arrive there too with our Imam. Let our souls camp with him. Let our bodies stand between his family and harm. And if we cannot, then let our grief be sincere. Let our tears be our allegiance. Let our mourning be our repentance. And let our love be our proof. O God, make my station and remembrance in Karbala, even if only through dua and tears. And grant me his visitation in this world and his intercession in the hereafter. Tonight, we do not yet mourn your martyrdom. Tonight, we pitch the tents. We fill the water skins. We prepare the prayer mats. We prepare to clarify. We prepare to resist. But already, our hearts are heavy with the knowledge of what is to come. And we say, this is Karbala. This is where the heavens shall weep. And the cry of the lovers resound. Labbayka ya Husayn. We are here, our Husayn. وآخر الدعوان أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
We now move to the eulogy, or Maqtal segment of our program, where we remember the epic of Ashura and the stand of Imam Husayn, as well as his family and companions. A Maqtal is essentially a eulogy, or remembering of the epic of Ashura, so as to learn from it, but also to develop an emotional connection to Imam Husayn. This is also designed to educate us and embed the message of Imam Husayn into our hearts. Mourning and weeping is normal during the Maqtal, and indeed it is something blessed, for when a person listens to and reflects on the tragedy that befell not just Imam Husayn, but rather that befell Islam, a mere 50 years after the passing of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, truly it is heartbreaking. The Maqtal this evening will be the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqeel. This segment will be available on The Martyr, located at www.themartyr.net.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. Imam Husayn alayhi salam has departed from Medina and is traveling towards Mecca. On the journey, he meets with Abdullah bin Muti Adawi, who inquires about his travel plans. The Imam informed him that he was currently traveling towards Mecca, and after that Allah would direct him where to go. Abdullah told Imam Husayn alayhi salam to avoid going to Kufa, as this was an inauspicious city for the Ahlul Bayt, where his father Imam Ali alayhi salam had been martyred, and his brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam had been abandoned and had to flee. Imam Husayn alayhi salam reached Mecca, which would become his base for the next 4 months. It was from here that he would send and receive letters, deliver sermons and meet delegations who were coming for Umrah and Hajj. Abdullah bin Zubair had also taken up residence in Mecca and felt threatened by the Imam's presence, as he too wished to build his own movement against Yazid. However, his motivation was personal ambition, and he wanted to take the Khilafat for himself. However, he knew as long as Imam Husayn alayhi salam was leading the movement, nobody would support or pledge allegiance to him. In a famous letter written to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya, who remained behind in Medina, Imam Husayn wrote, "This movement of mine is not on account of stubbornness, rebellion, worldly passions, or instigation by Satan. It is also not my object to create trouble or to oppress anyone. The only thing which invites me to this great movement is that I should reform the affairs of the followers of my grandfather, eradicate corruption, undertake enjoining to do good and restraining from evil, and follow the tradition of my grandfather, the Prophet of Allah, and my father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, peace be upon them." In addition, he wrote, "If the Muslim nation becomes inflicted with a ruler like Yazid, then it will be time to say farewell to Islam." In one of his most important sermons, which became known as the Sermon of Mina, Imam Husayn alayhi salam criticizes the scholars of Islam and blames them for not having taken a clear stance against Yazid. "O scholars who are celebrated and enjoy good repute on account of your learning, you have achieved a good name in society because of your goodwill. It is on account of God that men venerate you and stand in awe of you, so that even the powerful fear you and the weak honor you, and those who are not subject to you and over you, whom you hold no authority over, grant you favors they deny themselves. When the people do not receive their due, they seek your intercession, and you walk in the street with the majesty of kings and princes. Have you not earned all this respect and prestige because of the people's hopes that you will implement God's laws, even though in most instances you have failed to do so? You have taken lightly your duties as leaders. You have neglected the rights of the oppressed and the lowly, but have assiduously pursued what you regard as your personal rights. You have not spent your money or risked your life for the sake of the one who gave you life, nor have you fought against any group or tribe for the sake of God." News of Muawiyah's death had spread to the people of Kufa, who became aware of the refusal of Imam Husayn alayhi salam to pledge allegiance to Yazid, and instead had gone to Makkah. A meeting of the Shia was arranged at the house of Sulaiman bin Surad al-Khuzai, one of the prominent Shia leaders of Kufa. It was decided that they should give their support to Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and a letter was addressed to the Imam, with Sulaiman bin Surad, Musayib bin Najaba, Rifa'a bin Shaddad, and Habib ibn Mazahir amongst the signatories, which included several prominent personalities of Kufa. The letter read, "Peace be with you. We praise God, other than whom there is no deity. Praise be to God who destroyed your enemy, the stubborn oppressor, who took over your guardianship of the community, snatched away its authority, usurped the fey, war booty, and took control without people's consent. Then he killed the best ones and preserved the wicked. He made God's wealth circulate amongst the tyrants and the wealthy. He was destroyed just as Thamud faced destruction. We have no Imam. Therefore come, perhaps God shall unite us on the truth. We do not gather with Nu'man bin Bashir, who was the Umayyad governor of Kufa, for the Friday prayer or the Eid prayers. Once we learn that you have accepted to come to us, we will chase him away to Syria, God willing. Peace and mercy be upon you." The above letter was dispatched to Imam Husayn in Mecca with Abdullah bin Sabu Hamadani and Abdullah bin Wali Tamimi. They reached the letters to the Imam on the 10th of Ramadan, 60 AH. 2 days after the first group, another group consisting of Qais ibn Musakhar Saydawi, Abdul Rahman ibn Abdullah bin Qadan, and Umara bin Ubaid Saluli left for Makkah, carrying another 150 letters, pledging allegiance to Imam Husayn alayhi salam. A further 2 days passed and another letter was dispatched through Hani bin Hani Sabi and Said bin Abdullah Hanafi with the following contents. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Compassionate, to Husayn bin Ali, from his Shia among the believers and the Muslims, please make haste, for people are waiting for you. They are prepared to accept no one else but you. Come to us with speed, peace be with you. Sabath bin Ribi and others wrote in a letter, the dates have grown green and the fruit has ripened and the waters have overflown. Thus come to an army that is ready and well prepared. Peace be with you. Imam Husayn alayhi salam received all the letters from Kufa and studied them carefully to fully understand the situation in Kufa. He wrote the following reply, which he sent back through messengers Hani bin Hani Sabi and Said bin Abdullah Hanafi, who were the last in a series of messengers. In the name of God, the Compassionate, the Merciful, from Husayn bin Ali to the leaders of the believers and the Muslims. Hani and Said brought me your letters, and they were the last two messengers who came to see me on your behalf. I have understood everything that you have described and mentioned. The majority of the letters state, we have no Imam over us, so come that God may unite us through you on truth and guidance. I am sending my brother and my cousin, Muslim ibn Aqeel, who is my family's trusted representative. I have instructed him to write to me about your situation, circumstances and options. If he writes back to me saying that your leaders, men of distinction and merit, are united in the manner which your messengers have described, I will come to you quickly, inshallah. By my life, what is the function of the Imam except to act in accordance with the Book of Allah and uphold justice, profess the truth and dedicate himself to Allah? Peace be with you. Following the apparent groundswell of support from the people and the leaders of Kufa, Imam Husayn alayhi salam sent Muslim ibn Aqeel as his representative to lead the people, assess the situation, and if necessary to call him there to take over the rulership. Imam Husayn alayhi salam was wary of the sincerity of the Kufans due to their betrayal of his father Imam Ali alayhi salam and brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam, so he did not immediately go himself in case he too would suffer a similar fate. Muslim was a loyal and trusted companion of Imam Husayn, the son of his uncle Aqeel ibn Abi Talib and the elder brother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He was also his brother-in-law, married to his sister Ruqayya, who was the daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam from a different wife. Muslim was dispatched to Kufa along with Qais bin Musakhar Saydawi, Umara bin Ubaid, and Abdul Rahman ibn Abdullah. He was given instructions to act with piety, God consciousness, and to be cautious and discreet, and to treat the people with kindness and affection. He instructed Muslim to inform him immediately if the people are united in their commitment and support for him. Muslim went forth until he reached Medina, praying at the Prophet's mosque and saying his farewell to loved ones from his family. He hired 2 guides who belonged to the same tribe as his companion Qais. However, during the journey, they took a wrong route and ended up dying of thirst on the journey. Muslim himself managed to reach Kufa with a great difficulty and had to be rescued from the scorching desert. Initially, upon arrival in Kufa, Muslims stayed at the house of Mukhtar ibn Abu Ubaid al-Thaqafi. The Shia from Kufa began to come to the house of Mukhtar to read the letter sent by Imam Husayn alayhi salam, which Muslim had brought with him, and to take the oath of allegiance. However, the number of visitors began to increase, and word reached Nu'man bin Bashir, the governor of Kufa, who came to know where Muslim was staying. Over 12,000 people had made the oath of allegiance to Muslim, and he now believed that the time was right to call for Imam Hussein to come to Kufa and lead the people. Muslims sent a letter to Imam Hussein alayhi salam explaining that the conditions were favorable and that he should now proceed to Kufa. Nu'man went on the pulpit in the mosque of Kufa, calling on the people to avoid division and emphasizing that he didn't wish to cause bloodshed and loot people's properties. However, this address was heard by the supporters of the Umayyads in Kufa, who were angered by the apparent weakness shown by Nu'man. Abdullah bin Muslim bin Said Hadrami, an Umayyad supporter, got up and confronted Nu'man, telling him that the only way to suppress the rebels was through violence. He then left the mosque and wrote a letter to Yazid explaining the situation in Kufa and Muslims' presence. On receiving the letter from Abdullah, Yazid became alarmed about the situation in Kufa and consulted with Sarjan, who had been one of the Roman advisors to his father Muawiyah. Sarjan told him that he should appoint Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, who was known for his ruthlessness and brutality. Ubaydullah's father, Zayd bin Abi, also known as Ibn Marjana, had been the governor of Kufa during the time of Muawiyah and had ruled Kufa with an iron fist, casting fear into the hearts of its inhabitants. Yazid writes a letter to Ubaydullah, appointing him as the governor of Kufa and also instructing him to search and kill Muslim ibn Aqeel wherever they find him. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was ruling over Basra at the time and received the letter from Yazid. As soon as he had read the letter, he left for Kufa with a few members of his family. Upon entering Kufa, Ubaydullah dressed himself in a black turban and covered his face in a veil, giving the appearance of being somebody from the Prophet's family. Upon his entry to Kufa, the people saw him and immediately assumed that he must be Imam Husayn alayhi salam. They shouted greetings, "Welcome, O son of the Messenger of Allah." Muslim ibn Aqeel saw this and he became suspicious, warning the people to be cautious as he did not believe that this was Imam Husayn alayhi salam. However, the people did not pay heed. Ubaydullah headed towards the mosque of Kufa to address the people gathered, and it was here that he revealed his true identity. Upon seeing him, the people became alarmed and began to panic as they had exposed their true feelings for Imam Hussein in front of him. Ubaydullah addresses the people in a stern tone, telling them that he had been sent to crush the rebellion in Kufa. He told the people to inform him about those who are leading the rebellion against Yazid, and warning anybody found in collaborating would be killed and their properties confiscated. Upon hearing about the arrival of Ubaydullah in Kufa, Muslim decides to leave the house of Mukhtar and transfers to the house of Hani ibn Urwa Muradi, who was one of the tribal chiefs of Kufa and the leader of the Bani Murad clan. Despite the obvious dangers to himself, Hani, who was a loyal Shia, accepts giving protection to Muslim and agrees to host him. People now begin gathering at the house of Hani, and the number of pledges of support increases to nearly 18,000. Ubaydullah wishes to find the whereabouts of Muslim, and he pays a man called Maqeel 3,000 dirhams to infiltrate Muslim ibn Aqeel's circle and feed back information to him. Maqeel enters the mosque of Kufa and introduces himself to Muslim ibn Awsaja al-Asadi, who he discovered was one of the main supporters of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Maqeel introduces himself as a supporter of the Ahl al-Bayt from Syria, but belonging to the Dhu al-Qala tribe, and makes a pledge of support by offering 3,000 dirhams. Muslim ibn Awsaja is initially suspicious, but eventually Maqeel is able to gain his confidence. Therefore, Maqeel was able to gain access to Muslim ibn Aqeel and became aware of his whereabouts and actions. A meeting was held at the house of Hani ibn Urwa with a view to assassinating Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Hani, who was ill, informed the gathering that Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was coming to his house that evening, and everyone agreed that this would be a good opportunity to get rid of him. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad entered the room where Hani was resting, and Muslim ibn Aqeel was hidden away in a secret compartment from where he was supposed to come out and kill him once Hani had given him the signal to do so. Ubaydullah spent some time talking with Hani and inquiring about his health. Hani made signals to try and attract Muslims' attention. However, he didn't respond. Eventually, Ubaydullah is able to leave the house of Hani unharmed. Hani then calls Muslim and asks him why he did not kill Ubaydullah when he had the chance. He replied that this was not permissible for a believer to kill somebody who had not attacked him, and Imam Husayn alayhi salam had cautioned him against such an action. Also, it was reprehensible that you allow a visitor to be killed in your own house. Maqeel had become close to Muslim ibn Awsaja with a view to being able to meet Muslim ibn Aqeel. He was eventually introduced to Muslim ibn Aqeel, who took the pledge of allegiance from him and he handed him the 3,000 dirhams, which in turn were handed to another close companion, Abu Thumama Sa'idi, for safekeeping. Maqeel had now full access to Muslim ibn Aqeel and was able to gather information and discover his secret plans, all of which he would feed back to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Hani had been ill for some time, and Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad began to make inquiries about him, and eventually he was summoned to the palace as he wished to keep him under surveillance. Ubaydullah doubted that Hani was ill and suspected that this was just an excuse to avoid meeting him. Ubaydullah sent a delegation to go to the house of Hani and bring him to the palace. Hani is brought in front of Ubaydullah, who confronts him, accusing him of hiding Muslim ibn Aqeel inside his house and plotting to assassinate him. Hani denied the accusations. However, Ubaydullah then calls for Maqeel to come out. Hani recognizes him, and Maqeel begins disclosing all the secret information which had been discussed at the meetings held in Hani's house. Ubaydullah then gives Hani an ultimatum to either hand over Muslim ibn Aqeel or he would be killed. Hani told him that he would never hand over Muslim ibn Aqeel, and if he were to try and kill him, his tribe, the Bani Murad, would surely come to his rescue, as they were a strong and powerful group. Ubaydullah wanted to avoid getting into a war with the tribes, so he did not kill Hani immediately, but he detained him in his dungeon where he was subject to ill treatment and torture. Muslim ibn Aqeel became aware of the situation with Hani and began gathering his supporters, especially from Hani's tribe, the Bani Murad, outside the palace, demanding the release of Hani. The numbers quickly rose and soon reached close to 4,000 people. Ubaydullah started to become anxious and wanted to appease the gathered crowd. He summoned Qazi Shuray and they went to see the condition of Hani. He saw that Hani was not in a good condition. However, when he appeared in front of the assembled crowd, he assured them that Hani was fine and being well looked after. Even though Qazi Shuray had been the chief justice in Kufa and was trusted by the people, the assembled gathering was still insisting on seeing Hani. Ubaydullah now started using a different tactic. He used his spies to spread rumors about an army being sent from Syria to come and crush the uprising in Kufa. Muslim told his supporters not to pay attention to these rumors and to continue their protests outside the palace. However, Suleiman bin Surad, who was one of the important Shia figures in Kufa, cautioned the people about getting into an armed conflict with the authorities without a direct command from Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Ubaydullah now employed another tactic, instilling fear into the women and children by telling them about reprisal attacks against them and their children if their husbands did not desist from supporting Muslim. The 4,000 strong contingent of support dwindled to around 300 by the time they approached the palace, with Kufan women coming out of their houses and dragging their menfolk away from the front lines. Eventually, following the Isha prayer, the number had reduced to just 12. Soon these too would leave, and Muslim was all alone to wander the streets of Kufa, trying to find a safe place to spend the night. Muslim found refuge in the house of a believing lady by the name of Tawa. She had a spare room in the attic of her house where she hid Muslim. However, she warned him to remain silent as she feared her son would inform the authorities about his whereabouts. Muslim spent the night in prayer and slept only a little. He saw the Prophet ﷺ in his dream, informing him that he would soon be joining him. At that point, Tawa's son returned home and immediately suspected that somebody was in the house. His mother tried to dissuade him. However, he searched the house until he discovers Muslim hiding in the attic. News reached Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, who immediately dispatched Muhammad bin Ash'af with a battalion of 70 men. Muslim left the house of Tawa as he did not want Ubaydullah's soldiers to enter her house. A battle ensued with Ubaydullah's forces, and Muslim fought bravely. However, a trap was set, and Muslim was finally captured and taken to Ubaydullah's palace. Muslim was brought in front of Ubaydullah, who ordered him to send salams upon his Amir, referring to Yazid. Muslim refused, replying that his Amir was only Imam Husayn alayhi salam. He was then informed that he was to be executed, but prior to his death, he was asked if he had any final requests. Muslim left behind 3 requests. Number 1, to send a message to Imam Husayn alayhi salam, warning him not to come to Kufa. This request was refused by Ubaydullah. Number 2, to repay his debts by selling his sword and belongings. Number 3, to provide him some water so he could quench his thirst. Water was brought in front of Muslim, but he was unable to drink as he was bleeding from his mouth. 2 more containers were brought for him. However, he was still unable to drink due to the bleeding. Eventually, he told Ubaydullah that maybe it was Allah's will that he be martyred while thirsty. Muslim was dragged to the top of the governor's palace and beheaded. Before his execution, he sends his final greetings to Imam Husayn alayhi salam. His body was thrown to the ground and his decapitated corpse was dragged through the streets of Kufa. After Muslim, Hani ibn Urwa was also martyred by Ubaydullah. The heads of Muslim and Hani were then sent to Yazid in Damascus. In addition to Muslim, his 2 young sons, Muhammad bin Muslim, 8 years old, and Ibrahim bin Muslim, 10 years old, were both captured and held prisoner in Kufa shortly after the martyrdom of their father. A prison guard who saw the radiance coming from the boys' faces and their worship of Allah helped them escape from the prison. The boys were attempting to reach Karbala so they could reach Imam Husayn alayhi salam and warn him about the treachery of the Kufans and the martyrdom of their father. The boys found refuge near the river Euphrates and climbed a tree to hide. A woman drawing water spotted their reflection in the water and asked who they were. Ibrahim told her, "We are orphans. Please do not tell anyone you saw us." But the woman took pity on them and brought them to her mistress, a kind-hearted lady who soon discovered their true identity. She gave them food and shelter, warning them to remain silent because her husband Harith was an agent of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. The boys slept little that night, and both awoke in the middle of the night crying after seeing their father, Muslim ibn Aqeel, in a dream. Harith heard the cries of the boys and went to see who was inside his house. He soon discovered that these were the sons of Muslim ibn Aqeel, and he believed he would be rewarded handsomely for capturing them. The boys were dragged to the banks of the Euphrates River, and despite of their pleas for mercy, both the boys were brutally beheaded by Harith. They were allowed to pray a final 2 rakat prayer before being killed. The bodies of the small boys were thrown into the river and floated upstream. When Harith brought the heads of the young boys in front of Ubaydullah, he expected to claim a reward. Even a tyrant like Ubaydullah was shocked by the brutality of Harith, having seen the beauty and radiance of these young boys, and instead of rewarding him, he ordered him to be taken away and executed. All praise be to Allah, the Lord and the evident truth. All the tyrannical oppressors are subservient to His almightiness. All the inhabitants of the heavens and the layers of earth admit His Godhead. All the created beings confess of His oneness. May Allah send blessings upon the Master of all created beings and upon the members of His household, the noble ones, such blessings that will delight them, and humiliate all those who antagonize them from the jinn and mankind. Peace of Allah, the All-High and All-Great, and peace of His favorite angels, His missioned prophets, His chosen Imams, His righteous servants, and all the martyrs and veracious ones, and all blessings that are pure and delightful, that are coming and going, be upon you, Muslim, the son of Aqeel, the son of Abu Talib. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبُ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now we will have lamentations, commonly known as Nohe or Latmiyat in Muslim culture. These again are in English. These are poetry put to a tune, a type of song, a lamentation. These can be listened to with reflection and thought, and as per the cultural norm within most Muslim cultures and societies, there is the gentle beating of the chest in mourning as the lamentation proceeds. This beating of the chest is known as matam. It should be noted that this is not something that should draw blood or cause harm. Rather, it is a manifestation of grief on the part of the listener, as they are moved by the words of poetry. The lamentation for this evening is named Spirit of Husayn. This segment will be available on the Shia Sounds, located at www.shiasounds.com.
Take us to our graves, take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, lonely hearts, broken by the pain. Oh, every tear calls out Husayn's name. Every single kiss reminds us of Husayn's lips. Every tortured face holds a sacred place. Every tortured face holds a sacred place. Spirit of Husayn, take us into our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, tearful ones, can you see the babe? Can you see his smile, witness for a while? Can you see your sons born unto your wives? Can you hear their cries, see tears in their eyes? Can you imagine them, never seeing them again? This was a Husayn, Ali Asghar was his pain. This was a Husayn, Ali Asghar was his pain. Spirit of Husayn, take us into our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, our sweet Abbas, where are your sacred hands? Where are your shining eyes plundered upon the sands? Where is your valiant heart? Where is your sword so sharp to quench the thirst of the pure? Courageous you surely were. To quench the thirst of the pure, courageous you surely were. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Oh, daughter of Haydar, your sweetheart bears the scars. Oh, beloved of battle, you felt their hate so cruel. Oh, sisters in Islam, imagine yourselves in Sham. Imagine the pain and hurt displayed for that cursed dirt from the gaze of man you guard. Though the way is always hard, you're the heirs of sweet Zainab, Mujahid for hijab. You're the heirs of sweet Zainab, Mujahid for hijab. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. From Ashura to Arba'een, our hearts ache for Husayn. the suffering of Rabab, of Zainab and Sajjad. The blood flows through our veins, it's burning and full of shame. Our love of Rasulullah drags us to Karbala. Yet on which side would we stand? Would our blood fall on the sand? Yet on which side would we stand? Would our blood fall on the sand? Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. The call of our Husayn echoes from age to age. Let's die like sweet Abbas and give all for Allah's Nasr. Let our bodies be burnt and torn. Our jihad is not forlorn. Look well through our tearful eyes. Search well and we'll realize that Husayn surely survived in revolution. He's alive. That Husayn surely survived in revolution. He's alive. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. The years have passed and flown, the seed of our love is sown. The enemies they reel, for their hatred is all they feel. They burn, they kill, they maim, as their empires fall in shame. They narrate their darkened tale, but their plots and schemes will fail. The curse they bear is real, held by the holy seal. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. The years have passed and flown, the seed of our love is sown. The enemies they reel, for hatred is all they feel. They burn, they kill, they maim, as their empires fall in shame. They narrate their darkened tale, but their plots and schemes will fail. The curse they bear is real, held by the holy seal. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. For the head of our caravan is Sahib al-Zaman. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves. Spirit of Husayn, take us to our graves. Take us as Shahid, take us as your slaves.
The final item in our program is the Communion of Ashura. This is a contemporary, poetic, interpretive translation of the well-known salutations to Imam Husayn known as Ziyarat Ashura, or the Visitation of Ashura. The Truth Promoters Group, in a world first, has taken the content of Ziyarat Ashura and translated it in a modern, poetic, and most importantly, interpretive manner, both so that it is understandable to the English-speaking audience, but also so that it helps with the understanding of this profound visitation. This segment will be available on Shia Sounds, located at www.shiasounds.com.
Peace be upon you, O Husayn, beloved of the Prophet, lifeblood of his message, bearer of sorrow, breaker of chains. Peace be upon you, O son of the messenger of God, whose footsteps you followed into the fire so we might walk free beneath the sky. Peace be upon you, O son of Ali, Lion of God, fountain of courage. You stood, as he stood, firm against a world of betrayal. Peace be upon you, O son of Fatima, light of her eyes, echo of her prayer. Through your grief, the purity of your mother lives on. O Husayn, they gave everything, so we might remember who we are. Peace be upon you, O one whose blood cries out for divine justice. O son of the martyrs who stand, still shakes the heavens. You were the lonely one, unmatched, a solitary star surrounded by a night of betrayal. Peace be upon you and upon the souls who remained beside you, those who encamped in your courtyard, whose bones became the boundary of your shrine. O Husayn, how I long to be among them, to have knelt in your dust, waiting for your command, to have fallen with your name on my lips, to belong to your tent, to never leave your side, not in this world nor the next. Let the peace of God be upon you and them always. As long as I breathe and night and day continue their rhythm, my soul is yours. O Aba Abdullah, your tragedy was not only ours. The skies themselves wept, the stars dimmed, and the angels fell silent in horror. What they did to you, they do still, to every free voice, to every defiant heart that says no to tyranny. They silenced your cry in Karbala and echoed it in Gaza, in Kashmir, in the broken streets of Damascus, and in the gilded rooms of Washington, Tel Aviv, and London, where power matters more than people, where blood is cheap and honor is nothing. And yet, the people sleep. They binge distraction while the earth burns. They scroll through laughter while the children starve. They cheer for tyrants masked as leaders and do not see the caravan of Husayn. Still walking, still bleeding, still calling us to wake. O Husayn, the calamity is great, but our forgetfulness may be even greater. May God distance from His mercy those who built the house of tyranny stone by stone, calling it governance, calling it religion, but laying it on the bones of the oppressed. May He cast far from His mercy those who stripped you, O people of the house, of the stations that were your divine due, and gave them to cowards, frauds, and liars in robes. May He exclude from His mercy those who murdered you with steel, and those who murdered truth with silence. And may He cast away all who make room for tyranny, who excuse it, who fund it, who defend it in panels and parliaments. O Husayn, may He cast away those who smile while others starve, who speak of reform while breaking the backs of the weak, who let the sick die while guarding the wealth of the rich, who kill the unborn in the name of comfort, and the elderly in the name of mercy. They are today's court of Yazid, still robed in piety, still drunk on blood. And I want nothing of them, nothing. I wash my hands before God and before you, O Husayn, of them, of their followers, of their allies, of every voice that justified their crimes, every pen that signed their decrees, every tongue that stayed silent while they spilled your blood. O Aba Abdullah, I am with those who are with you. My peace is only for those who loved you, who lived and died by your name. And I am at war with those who stood against you, in every age, in every land, in every disguise. Whether they wore crowns or turbans, held swords or microphones, built palaces or platforms. I am at war with them until the day when all masks fall. My God, cast far from His mercy the house of Ziyarah, a dynasty of cruelty dressed as order, and the house of Marwan, masters of deceit, who poisoned revelation with ambition. May He cast out the Umayyads, all of them, every name, every banner, every doctrine of power that drowned prophecy in politics. May He cast away Ibn Marjan, the bureaucrat of blood, and Umar ibn Sa'd, who traded eternity for a piece of land, and Shim, that beast who laughed at the tears of Zaynab. And may He reject those who prepared for this slaughter, those who saddled their beasts, buckled their weapons, and veiled their faces, not in shame, but in resolve. They marched not by force, but by choice. O Husayn, their faces change, but their paths They still ride out today in uniforms, in suits, in think tanks and war rooms, crushing your name wherever it rises. And I stand apart from all of them. And I name them so that their silence will never bury your screams. May my father be your ransom. May my mother be your ransom. Oh Husayn, what they did to you has broken me. My heart is heavy with your grief. My soul aches with the weight of your absence. And yet, even in my mourning, I am honored. For God lifted me through you. He let me know your name. He made your sorrow my compass. So I beg him, the one who raised your station in the world and raised my soul through your love, let me rise for you. Let me be among those who avenge your blood, not with blind fury, but under a guided banner, a victorious Imam, a descendant of your house, a voice that carries your cry into the end of time. Let my hand be with his. Let my heart be ready. Let me be worthy of your justice. O God, make me honored in your sight, not because of who I am, but because I loved Husayn. Let his name be my key, his memory my robe, his cause my shield, his tears my passport to you. Let me walk in this world carrying his light, and let me stand in the next world with his name upon my lips, a name that you love, a soul that you elevated, a martyr whose blood wrote the meaning of honor. By Husayn, make me worthy of your nearness in this fleeting world and in the world that endures. O Aba Abdullah, I seek nearness to God, but not through neutrality, not through slogans, not through prayers that ignore the oppressed. I seek nearness through you, through the Prophet who kissed you, through the father who raised you, through the mother who wept for you, through the brother who stood beside you. I draw close to the divine by loving you, and by disavowing those who drew swords against you, who declared war on your truth, who institutionalized injustice and dressed it in piety. I disown before God and his messengers every hand that laid the first stone of oppression, every architect of injustice, every regime built on your blood. I walk away from all of it, from every path that led to your murder, even if it now wears a new name, a new crown, a new constitution. Your cause is my prayer. Your war is my witness. Your love is my path to God. I renounce them before God and before you, O Husayn. I cut all ties with those who wronged you, and those who walked beside them, and those who came after them and carried their banners. I seek nearness to God through your light, through loyalty to you and your chosen ones, to your friend, your witness, your inheritance. And I distance myself from your enemies, from those who raised armies against you, from those who plotted in back rooms, signed decrees, or stood idly by as your blood flowed. I distance myself from their shadows, from their supporters, from their media machines, from their apologizers and diplomats, from all who softened their crimes or mimicked their structures. O Husayn, to love you means to oppose what killed you, always, everywhere, in every generation. I am with those who are with you, O Husayn. I am with those who are with you, O Husayn. I walk beside the ones who love you, who carry your truth in their hearts, who defend your memory not only in words but in action. And I am against those who stand against you, no matter their flag, their religion, their language, their disguise. I am your ally, and the ally of those who align with your cause, those who choose dignity over comfort, clarity over compromise, blood over betrayal. And I am an enemy to your enemies, to their rhetoric, to their institutions, to their logic, to their entire way of being. You are the axis, you are the criterion. To love you is to take a side forever. Oh God, you honored me beyond what I deserve. For you let me know Husayn. You let me recognize the friends of Husayn. You opened my eyes to the deceit of his enemies and gave me the strength to walk away from them. So now I beg you, let me be amongst your friends, not just in love, but in cause, not just in belief, but in destiny. Let me live in their path, let me die upon their path, let me rise with them when you raise the dead. Plant my feet among theirs, a footing of truth that does not shake with fear, does not slip in temptation, does not bow before oppressors. Let me be theirs in this life and in the life that never ends. And I ask you, O God, let me reach that radiant place, the honored station that you have reserved for them. Let me be drawn near in their light. Let my name be spoken in the halls of truth, not for who I am, but because I stood for Husayn. And grant me the honor to seek justice, not from anger, but from love. to rise and answer the call, to be among the soldiers of your final proof, a guiding Imam from their blood, visible and unafraid, speaking truth in an age of noise. Let me see him, let me serve him, let me die at his side, with the name of Husayn still burning upon my lips. And I ask you, O God, by their right, by the place they hold in your nearness, by the rank you gave them above all others, let my sorrow not be wasted. Let these tears be not mere water, but offerings. Let my broken heart be a prayer, my mourning a ladder. Reward me through this grief with the greatest reward you have ever given to one struck by tragedy. For what greater loss was there? What wound ever bled like this one? What blow shook Islam and the very heavens and the earth as deeply as the slaying of Husayn? This is not just my sadness. It is your grief, O God, reflected in my soul. So let that reflection never fade. O God, here I stand, heart heavy, eyes wet, soul trembling. I am not worthy, but I am here. So in this very moment, in this divine place of mourning, in this sacred remembrance of Husayn, wrap me in your mercy. Let your peace and blessing descend upon me. Let your compassion find me. Let your forgiveness embrace me. Let this moment mark me. Let this grief cleanse me. Let this loyalty exalt me. Let me not leave this remembrance the same as I entered it. Oh God, let my life be like theirs, not in ease, but in meaning. Let me live as Muhammad lived, in mercy, in truth, in struggle for justice. Let me walk the path of his family with clarity, with courage, with compassion. And let my death be like theirs, a testament, a stand, a submission to you alone. Let me not be remembered for comfort, but for conviction. Let me not die in distraction, but in devotion. O God, write me among those who lived and died under the banner of Muhammad and his purified family. O God, this day, the day of mourning, the day of blood upon sand, the day when your prophet's family was butchered, they called it a blessing. The tyrants rejoiced Bani Umayyah celebrated Yazid, the son of the liver eater, the one whose heart was dark with vengeance. He danced on the chest of Husayn. He who was excluded from your mercy and whose mother chewed the flesh of the righteous was praised in the courts of power. But you cursed them, O God, and so did your prophet. From every pulpit, in every stance he ever made for truth. This is not politics. This is treason against mercy. And we remember, we name them, we stand apart from their legacy. Then, now, and forever. O God, remove from your mercy the one who plotted, the one who schemed, the one who sealed the deal. Abu Sufyan, the enemy who smiled and waited. Muawiyah, the serpent in the cloak of unity. Yazid, the drunken tyrant who trampled prophecy. Make your distance from them be eternal as their betrayal. May your rejection of them never cease. For this is the day that they rejoiced. The day Ziyad and Marwan raised their glasses, laughed while Zaynab wept, boasted of killing Husayn as a victory. God, they rejoiced in his death. Let them not rejoice in your presence. Multiply their estrangement. Amplify their punishment. Let the pain they inflicted return to them, not out of hatred, but out of divine justice. O God, I'm not just remembering history, I'm walking towards you. This day, this stand, this moment of grief is my offering. Through my rejection of their killers, through my disavowal of their empire, through my refusal to forget, I seek your nearness. Let my righteous wrath and supplication that you exclude them from your mercy be a lantern. Let my sorrow be a stairway. Let my refusal to compromise be worship. And through all of this, I reaffirm my loyalty to your prophet and to the ones he wept for. The family he held closest, the blood he told us never to forget. But my love is not empty. It is not ritual or poetry or song alone. To love them is to follow them, to walk where they walked, to rise where they rose, to stand across generations against the same arrogance, the same injustice, the same godless empires in new disguises. It is to love as they loved, to resist as they resisted, to live as they lived, and to die as they died. This is not just love. It is allegiance. It is a covenant. And in this moment, I renew my vow in word, in soul, and in stance. O God, exclude from your mercy the first tyrant who trampled upon the right of Muhammad's family, the one who planted the seed of betrayal, who saw power and chose it over truth. He opened the gate, and many rushed through after him. So exclude the last one who follows his path, every imitator, every modern version, every politician or preacher who builds on that first distortion. O God, exclude from your mercy the clique who rose against Husayn. They weren't just soldiers, they were planners, they were influencers. They wrote articles, gave speeches, signed treaties, justified tyranny. They supported, they pledged, they obeyed, they killed. And that betrayal continues. Even today, there are those who wear black for Husayn, but stand with the very systems that killed him. They claim to mourn him, but their silence defends Yazid. Their fear enables tyranny. Their alliances stab the heart of his son, the awaited one. O God, how many claim to wait for the Mahdi, while crushing every cause he would rise for? So exclude from your mercy all who inherit this legacy, not just in name but in action. Those who held the swords, those who carried the ink, those who watched and said nothing, and those who still do. In robes, in suits, in silence. This is not hatred, this is honesty. This is cleansing the record. This is standing beside Husayn and saying, we have not forgotten and we have not been deceived. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah. Peace be upon your shattered body, your thirsty lips. Peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah. Peace be upon your shattered body, your thirsty lips, your prostration upon the burning earth. Peace be upon the souls that encamped in your courtyard. Peace be upon the souls that encamped in your courtyard, not for shade or safety, but to die beside truth. From me to you, an unending peace. As long as I breathe, as long as night follows day, my heart is turned towards Karbala. And may God never make this the last time I call your name. Never the last time I whisper your pain or walk the road that leads to your banner. Peace be upon you, O Husayn, and upon Ali your son, the patient, the broken prisoner, the speaking tongue of grief. And peace be upon your children, cut down in their bloom, buried in blood, rising in light. And peace upon your companions, who gave more than words, who gave more than tears, who gave themselves. And in this very breath, as I send peace to you, I pledge my soul to your son, the Qari, on who will rise, of your blood, the Mahdi, the one who will rise to avenge your name. My allegiance is not in slogans, It is in obedience. It is in sacrifice. It is in unwavering loyalty. Until he returns, my allegiance is with his deputy, the righteous leader who guards his path, the Wali al-Faqih, guardian of your legacy, guide of this ummah. I follow what they command, I walk where they lead, I do not waver, for we are the children of the covenant, the ones who said, among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with God. Some of them have fulfilled their vow, and others still await. But they have never changed in the least. And I say now, O Husayn, count me among them. O God, begin from me the exclusion from your mercy. For the first one who violated the right of Muhammad and his family, let it begin with him and extend to the second and the third and the fourth. Exclude from your mercy Yazid and Ubaidullah ibn Ziyarah and Ibn Marjan and Umar ibn Sa'd and Shim. Not just them, but all those who carry their traits, those who betray truth, who serve tyranny, who give sermons that silence resistance, who wear robes while enabling injustice. The house of Abu Sufyan, the house of Ziyad, the house of Marwan are not just of blood, they are of action. And we ask you, O God, to exclude from your mercy every manifestation of that betrayal, past, present, and future, as long as night follows day. And now, O God, we do not ask you for heaven. We do not ask you for palaces or gardens. We do not seek reward. We seek you. We ask only for your pleasure, that you allow us to serve you, to work in your path, to stand for your truth, to live with dignity, to die with loyalty. Count us among those who have been true to their covenant, those who remembered the pledge made before time began and never turned away from it. Among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with God. Some of them have fulfilled their vow, and others still await. But they have never changed in the least. O God, let us be of them. Let us die with Husayn's name on our tongues, and rise with the Mahdi's banner in our hands.
With the communion of Ashura, we bring our program to a close for this evening. God willing, we will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, with His grace, for our program for the 3rd of Muharram, 1447. We pray that He, God, accepts from us and that this has been useful, educational, and beneficial to the viewers. If you found this session useful, then please do subscribe, like the video, and share with your friends and family, and anyone else who you feel might find it useful and educational. Please also visit our website, www.truthpromoters.com, and from there you can find all of our sites and read the write-ups for the Quranic verses, the couplets, the lectures, the eulogy or maqtal, the lamentations, and of course, the main lecture, as well as view the videos and listen to the audios. Peace be upon you, O Prophet of God. Peace be upon you, O Imam Husayn. Peace be upon the inheritor of Imam Husayn, our beloved Imam Mahdi. May our souls be his ransom. Peace and blessings to you and to all of God's righteous servants.